And if we look to Strong's definition of the proper noun Cush, we can see that, as far as its meaning is concerned, well, it's really rather non-descriptive. There is no known direct definition for this proper Hebrew noun. But indirectly, via the Greek Septuagint, we can ascertain that Cush means, by their translation, for they translated Cush to the Greek word Ethiopes, which means literally burnt of face, or more loosely as sunburnt. This latter definition is both an irony and a misnomer, because Cush was simply born this way, having not been affected by the sun at all. It's not that the Greek translators of the 2nd century before Christ didn't know the meaning of the word Cush, and that they simply looked at the so-called Ethiopians and gave the best description that they could. No, translations don't work that way. But if they hadn't known what Cush meant, then they would have transliterated the word over into Greek. Therefore, we can ascertain that Cush means burnt of face, burnt, as in burnt to a cinder, black. And this is how Ham beheld his son at the seeing of him at his birth. The child looked burned because it was the son of him who should have been burned for his awful misdeed. For if under the law of God, which came about a millennium later, a man was burned to death for bedding his wife's mother, even with the mother's consent, then how much more should he be burned who bedded his own unconscious mother? And if Ham were burned, then his seed was burned with him. However, because God had already blessed Ham and promised him a seed, so much seed that would replenish the earth, Cush and the brothers that would join him, Mizraim and Put, were handed a lifeline due to God's unconflicting nature. Notwithstanding, they would bear the mark of that undelivered punishment, and the Lord will be glorified. Therefore, blacks are not cursed, a notion that even some blacks despair to. Noah could not curse Ham's offspring, even if he wanted to, for they were indeed blessed by God. Noah was able to curse Canaan because he was conceived improperly, therefore he was outside the blessing of God anyway. By way of comparison, if we look to the 6th day of creation, when God created man in his image, we see that God blessed them. Genesis 1:22, and God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply." And then, after Adam and Eve had sinned by eating of the forbidden tree, God cursed the ground, not Adam and Eve, for he had already blessed them, though their blessing would now have its anguish, toil, and setbacks from the ground. And later, as you know, their son Cain killed his brother Abel, and so, having done the worst thing possible, to slay an image of God, God would have the curse of the ground eventually overtake Cain's name, that is, his seed. The Canaanites would die in their sins, which they had been released to. And this because Cain had not only slain his brother, but all Abel's descendants too, which is what is meant by blood, more properly, bloods. We translate this as an uncountable noun, but a countable noun is better. Bloods, as in all the descendants of Abel. And so now, in divine retribution, Cain's descendants would be cursed.
I shall be uploading the entire series of Ham is the father of Canaan, but I thought that Noah was. If, however, you would like to purchase the book or ebook, then these options are available on Amazon. I also recommend to you my other publication, Nimrod, The Easy Way to Be a Mighty One, which correlates at times with this particular discourse. My name is John Edgar Townsend. I trust that you will have a blessed day.